Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to this week's Friday Reads, where I talk about everything that I read in the last week, what I'm currently in the middle of, and what I think I'm going to be getting to next week. And I finished The Unkindest Tide by Seanan McGuire, the 13th book in the October Days series. So the October Days series is an adult urban fantasy series where we're following our main character of October Day, and she is half fae, half human, and a knight in the fairy realms, and frequently shoved out really weird problems because honestly, the pureblood fae don't really know how to deal with a lot of things, and so Toby ends up best suited to try to solve these problems. And in this book, Toby has been called upon to clear her debts with a very powerful firstborn, Fae, and the way that Toby is going to do this is by helping the firstborn keep a promise that she made to a very large group of other Fae. And the story goes from there, which I know is an incredibly vague description, but this is one of those books that's really hard to describe without spoiling previous books. This is a plot point, like a major plot point in the overarching story of this series, but we don't find out about the thing in this book until I think like book 4 or 5 in the series. So I'm trying to not like spoil it for anybody if you haven't read it. But if you've read it, you probably have some idea of what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, I didn't spoil anything. But this is a reread, as this series has been this year, and I adore this book. I love this book for a lot of reasons. I love that it's tonally a little bit different than what we've been getting, especially as of late. And that particular tone really works for me. I love the characters that we are spending more time with. Like, I love any time we get to spend with Deanda. She is great. I just generally like the character mix that we have in this is really good. I also adore the fact that we learn so much about fairy in this one. It's like a huge expansion of the world. We go to someplace we've never been before. We just learn so much. And I love that we're both expanding out this world for the future while also kind of like taking a step back to some of the things that have been mentioned in this series before and taking a little bit more of a look at it. We don't, especially some of the prophecies, like we don't actually get into any major depth on those prophecies, but we kind of like touch them a little and talk about them a little bit more, which is interesting and very nice. And I think that this book is a really good setup for this arc that we're starting in the series. So Seanan McGuire does smaller arcs within the series that are 4 books long. So this is book 13, so it's the first book in the 4th arc, and it does a lot of heavy lifting with setting up a lot of the things that we are going to need. And so it's just a really well done book. It also, by the way, has one of my favorite scenes out of the entire series. It is simultaneously sweet and heartbreaking, and I adore it every time I get to it. So yeah, I love this book. 5 stars much. And that's all that I finished. But I did make some pretty good progress on Voyage of the Basilisk by Marie Brennan. So this is the 3rd book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, which is an adult fantasy. It is set up to be like a memoir. So it's a fictional memoir. And it also feels vaguely historical because even though this is set in a completely different world than Earth, it is like almost like Victorian times. So you do get the kind of old-timey writing and just old-timey sensibilities in this book. But I love this framing of it being a memoir. That's something that I have loved for this entire series because, you know, our main character, Isabella Camhurst, or Lady Trent as she is later known, like we get Lady Trent's like thoughts and colorful commentary on her past adventures, and I love that kind of a framing device. I think it works so well. Especially because the whole point of this series is that we are kind of following along on Isabella Camhurst's adventures as she becomes this world-renowned dragon naturalist. Like, that's kind of the whole point. And so, like, having the colorful commentary from, like, old Lady Trent as she's looking back on these adventures is just really, really nice. I've also been enjoying a lot of the dragon talk in this book, and I actually am finding that with this book, I like it a little bit less because we're getting less of the science of the dragons than we got in the first two books. So, like, books 1 and 2, it was Isabella discovering these, scientific things about dragons. She's studying them. She lives in a world where a lot is unknown about dragons. And so she's making these scientific discoveries. And I adore going along with scientists as they do their science. That's something that I really enjoy in books. And we're not getting as much of that in this book. And that is probably my major critique of this. I like it still because I like our main character. I like the characters she has around her. I like the commentary that, from the memoir part of it, but it's not quite hitting the same way because I am missing that science. And I feel like that science is really what ties it together. Now, I'm on page 232 out of about 350 pages. So I'm about a third of the way, or 2/3 of the way through this book. So I could potentially still get more science and have that be more fulfilling, but I'm not entirely certain that I'm going to get it because there are still events that have been foreshadowed that haven't happened yet, and I'm not convinced we can have those foreshadowed events and sufficient science. So, like, that's kind of where I'm at with this. I still like it, but not as much as the first two because it is missing. It doesn't have enough of a crucial element for me. That's where I'm at with this book. But I am really proud because I did make significant progress in this when I had gone so many weeks without making any progress at all. And then the other book that I'm in the middle of is Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. This is the third book in the Murderbot Diaries, and I am listening to this on audiobook, and I have made zero progress on it. Now, the reason that I didn't make as much progress as I wanted on Voyage of the Basilisk or any on Rogue Protocol is in part because I am now on day 4 of a headache. And that's really what it is. So, like, I really haven't wanted to read that much because, like, the thought of, like, reading with my eyeballs just makes my head hurt. And even paying attention to an audiobook is a little bit much. So I didn't make as much progress, but totally understandable why I'm not, like, concerned about it or feeling bad about it. But I had hoped to be a little bit further. So for next week, keeping that in mind, since I still do technically have this headache, although it's not as bad, which is really nice. Rogue Protocol will happen as I do, like, arts, crafts, knitting, cross stitch, whatever kind of things. This is a reread, so I'm not terribly concerned about reading it quickly. It'll just be there for when I want to pick it up. I do want to finish Voyage of the Basilisk. Like I said, I only have about 115-ish pages left. So this is totally doable for this week. I'm probably not going to finish it tonight, but I might be able to finish it tomorrow. And I think that's what I'm going to try to aim for. And then after that, I do really want to pick up Square Cube by Mira Grant. This is a horror novella. I'd like to read it during spooky season, especially because I've had it on my shelf since, like, December of last year. And I know that if I don't read it now, it's just a little bit harder for me to pick up horror at other times of the year. So it would probably, like, hang around on my shelf until next Halloween. So I'm going to try to pick this up pretty quickly. And then if I finish that, then I will also probably pick up The Merchant and the Rogue by Sarah M. Eden, which is the third book in the Dread Penny Society series, which is historical romance. This is a series that I've been reading. I'm not necessarily as interested in this one, although I do want to see how it goes. I really want to get to book 4. That's the one that I'm like super interested in. But these books like build on each other, so you kind of have to read them in order. Anyway, those are the thoughts. Those are my plans for the coming week. So if you have any thoughts or feelings about any of the books that I mentioned in this video, please leave me a comment down below. But that is all I have. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!